Welcome to Working for Women, the Independent Women's Forum podcast, where we are changing the conversation about women and public policy for the better.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Gunlock, Director of the Culture of Alarmism Project at the Independent Women's Forum and your host for today's Working for Women podcast. Today, I'm here to talk about an event IWF is hosting on October 19th in Washington, D.C. If you're interested in attending the event, go to IWF.org and click on the events button at the top of your page. You'll find all the details there, and you can also RSVP. So the event is called Reasonable Moms Unite, How We Push Back on the Culture That Demands We Worry About Everything. Joining me today is one of my favorite people, and I think one of the most reasonable moms I know, Julie Kelly, who is a food and agriculture writer from Orland Park, Illinois. Julie, you know I am so thrilled always to talk to you, so thanks for coming on.
Oh, my gosh, I just love being on your show, and thanks so much for having me.
Well, listen, look, you and I write on this issue a lot, and we can probably talk for the next hour. But look, I just want to give kind of people a sense of what we're going to be talking about at this event. Sadly, you are not on the panel, although we hope you are going to be on some future panels. We always love when you come to D.C. or when we go on the road, and because you are just such a voice of reason. And I want to set this up a little bit for people, right? So the movie Bad Moms came out, and Julie, did you see that movie?
No, I wanted to over the weekend, but I watched the Ryder Cup instead.
Okay. Okay. Well, the movie Bad Moms came out, and for those of you who are listening who are not familiar with this movie, it stars Mila Kunis. She's like kind of an annoyingly beautiful, young mother of teenagers, but that's fine. The casting was a little off, but she plays a young mom who is just kind of fed up with this culture of moms being told you need to mother harder, you need to mother better, you need to do better, right? And it really resonated, I think, with a lot of women because this is all we hear. Now, you and I write about something sort of related to that, which is the alarmism that comes with motherhood now. That it's not only a matter of mothering better, it's a matter of protecting your children from, this sort of these risks that are out there, right? And moms, I think, are really getting tired of it. I think they're being tired that they need to meet impossible standards to be a good mom, right? So to be a good mom, right, you're told you have to cook every meal from scratch from expensive organic ingredients. You need to hover and monitor your child's every activity. You're encouraged to examine and scrutinize every single thing your child touches, eats, or brushes against, right? So this makes parenting harder. It's exhausting. It's joyless, right? And so I think so instead, and then then the bad moms, right? They're like the crazy moms. They work too hard. They never are home. They never cook. They never clean. And so when you think about women sort of being put in both of these categories, like one or the other, I felt like it's time we had a new category, and that is the reasonable moms, right? They want to raise their kids without so much fear and anxiety. They want to guiltlessly take shortcuts. Occasionally, they want to give their kids a treat occasionally. They want less of a judgmental society that's more supportive of parents. So, I'm sorry for this long wind-up, but I wanted to sort of, define this for people, that I think I am a reasonable mom. I think you are too. Tell me what you find so unreasonable about parenting today and some of the demands that you feel and that you're also sort of working to push back against.
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I think a lot of this, I used to refer to it a few years ago as competitive parenting or competitive mothering. I think there's moms, especially my age, in their 40s, and, you're educated, you gave up your career to maybe stay home, and this is your newest outlet for proving yourself as a worthy human being. How you feed your kids, what you feed them, what their ACT score is, how many activities they're in. And that's really, unfortunately, I think how a lot of moms gauge themselves or their level of success. So I kind of get it. I fell into that a little bit when my daughters were younger. I've said this before, I made every bite of their baby food from scratch. I thought I could get some kind of kudos, in the mom world for that. And so what it really does is you're really making other moms feel bad. You're making yourself feel good, but there's a superiority complex that goes along with it. Yeah. Now, my background and how I fell into these food issues and writing about them aside from my political background, is I taught cooking classes out of my home. I haven't done it in a while because I'm so busy doing all of this. But, you know, when I saw a lot of moms who didn't cook, they didn't know how to. And what I called my class was fearless cooking, because they're so afraid that they're going to poison their kids. They're not going to cook the chicken enough. It's going to be pink. Their kids are going to get sick. You know, that was the word I heard the most, that they were afraid. You know, what if they didn't use organic? You know, should they use farm fish or wild caught fish, or, you know, whatever the terminology is. And even when I was cooking, even though I cook, and I cook a lot, I didn't want to shame these moms into thinking you need to cook every dinner at home. You know, my point was I kept all the recipes within like 8 or 9 ingredients. I never said it has to be organic or it has to be, you know, this certain amount. I'm like, just once or twice a week, if you can put a nice meal on the table for your family as a departure for what you're doing otherwise, you know, it's a good thing. It takes a lot of time. You know, it's time to shop and prepare and cook and clean up. But, you know, a lot of these moms wanted to do that. So that was just my role enabling it. But I see this overwhelming pressure of every aspect of mothering. And, you know, it really does need to be toned down because you lose your own identity then. You know, your identity is wrapped up in your kids.
Well, you know, it really is. It's interesting that you talk about, you know, how you personally felt this way and came to just in running your own business, this cooking business out of your home, and advising moms and seeing how many questions they have. You know, I can't tell you the number of, you know, women that come to me and ask questions about, you know, is this actually dangerous? Is this actually bad? You know, I'd really like to save money. You know, I have 3 little boys and they're now into sports, and just the money I spend on, you know, Little League and then the equipment that goes with it and the uniforms and all of this stuff, it's really difficult for us financially to afford it. And then, you know, now luckily I am able to save money on groceries, but I think about those moms who, you know, may read you know, this is what's interesting. So, you know, Rachel Ray, she's very popular, you know, on Food Network, right? They started to notice a change in her too, like in the ingredient lists on her recipes. You know, it used to just be chicken, you know, 4 pounds of chicken, you know, cut up or whatever. Then you would start to see like 4 pounds of organic chicken. Like they would, you know, she would add that word in. And, you know, or she would say...
Rachel's not a mother either.
Right, she's not a mother, and she has billions of dollars. And so you think about like, this stuff, and you see that a lot on mom blogs too. You know, they'll say, you know, buy the best, most organic, locally grown, da-da-da-da-da. You know, there's all these, like, recipes are no longer just recipes. They are you know, a lecture about...
A mission statement.
Yes. And so, you know, I think women, you know, that might be a subtle thing, but then they start to think, well, goodness, you know, if I can afford this, and look, I think there are plenty of women who can afford this. I think most of the women that I live next to in my neighborhood outside of Washington, D.C., can afford this very sort of, I call it aspirational shopping, where they go and they buy the top line stuff. They shop at Whole Foods. But there's just a number of people who can't, and it's so horrible to suggest that one is better than the other. When, you know, Julie, you write a lot on science issues, and I do as well. And when you look at the evidence, I mean, Stanford University did this huge study showing that there is absolutely no nutritional difference between organic and conventional produce. There's no nutritional difference, and yet people are spending their limited amount of funds on this stuff. So I think that, you know, when I see women who are being told, you know, if you really love your kids, you know, you'll buy this organic food, or you'll go non-GMO, or you'll buy local. You know, it frustrates me because they're not getting a healthier product for that premium price.
Well, not only that, Julie, and this is something that is on my back burner, but I really want to write about. The moms out there listening should know, if you're buying organic, you are likely buying an imported food product.
That's right.
And this idea that local organic goes together, it does not. The U.S. is a net importer of organic food. What's even scarier is the rise in imported so-called organic grains from countries like Turkey, Romania, India, China, that have very lax, if any, food safety rules. Yeah. There was an article that was posted today by Cornucopia, which is no friend of ours. But they are very alarmed about the rise in really fraudulent organic grains. So if you're buying organic dairy, the likelihood that the cow that's they sourced the dairy from for yogurt, milk, whatever, ate these imported grains. Now, how is that not alarming? And I always say, so you trust imported organic soybeans from India, but not GMO soybeans from Indiana. I mean, the logic behind the food movement, it is illogical. And in some regards, it's dangerous. Not only, what it is doing to moms, which is making them a little bit nutty. I gave a speech to an organization over the summer, and this woman stood up and she said, I go to the grocery store and I feel like I'm making life and death choices. And I have a 5-year-old. And I thought that hits the nail on the head. I mean, she really encapsulates what this whole movement is about. They want you to believe that. So you will buy the products that their organic executives are trying to sell and profit themselves. They really don't care about you. They care about themselves. So that's another thing moms should know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think about how just the way in which my mom raised me, she would pick me up from school. There were never any play dates, right? It was just, you're coming home, right? And then if I wanted to get on my bike and roll around to someone's house, that was fine, but it was on my own, as opposed to me, who is like running my children's social calendars. They have a better social life than I do with all their play dates and all their sports and everything. And I often had to get myself to after school events. Like I didn't have a chauffeur and an Uber. I am an Uber driver, and so I didn't have that. And then I think about she would take us to the grocery store, and I would sit in the car with the windows rolled down for an hour while she did the whole shopping. Okay, and
without
as
a cell phone either.
Without a cell phone, right? And as you know, I left my kids in the car for about 15 minutes, and this guy attacked me for being irresponsible, right? And I went in for one thing. I went in for a rotisserie chicken, as opposed to my mother, who would come out with a week's worth of food, okay? And then, and then we'd go home, and she'd open a couple cans of corn and warm them up, and she'd make some rice, and she'd fry up a chicken breast that was cheap, just some chicken breast she picked up. And then we'd have dinner, and then we'd do our, life was just, she didn't agonize over, oh my God, is the chicken Bell & Evans, and is it organic, and and this is canned corn, is there BPA in the can? I mean, good God, there was just none of this extra thought put into it. Life was just simpler, and I think, I'm raising my kids that way. I'm trying to look, I'm trying to sort of shrug off, and a lot of the alarmism, obviously, I write on this stuff, and I'm aware that a lot of it is marketing, and it's very profitable for the fearmongers out there, But I think for the average person who, maybe it's not their job to do this, like I do and you do, it is hard to tune that stuff out. It's very hard.
It is. And, I think that the information that is getting out there, you talk about how we were raised, what food, because our food options were so limited. They're not now. We can get any kind of food that we want, really. Most of us who live in an urban, suburban area, anytime. Our moms didn't have that. They went to one grocery store. The choices were very limited, and that's what you ate. But also this mom-shaming idea, too. I see a lot of the foodie elites, they talk down about places like McDonald's or, I had moms trying to say, can you teach a class with food that we can put in a container and have in the car for our kids when we're running around to all these different activities? We need, so, the moms who do roll through a McDonald's, they've got 3 kids trying to get to hockey or music lessons or whatever. That they're feeling bad doing it because you have these elitists who don't have that problem.
Right.
It never crosses their mind. When you have nannies, Tom Colicchio has his nanny making his 2 little boys, food all day. Well, of course he can shame moms.
He doesn't worry about it,
McDonald's because he's never lived that way. These elites don't. That's what the moms need to know. The people who are pushing these messages do not live like you. And no suburban mom is going to tell another suburban mom, don't go through McDonald's once or twice a week and feed your kids before.
And I think it's really important to point out to the listeners here, Julie's not exaggerating. Look, this weekend was scanning through my Facebook feed and looking at articles. I was told goldfish crackers are toxic, that I'm a terrible mother for not buying organic food, that, what were the other ones? There were, like there was a warning on like Avena or like some hand lotion that's like over the everyone buys, right? That has endocrine disruptors or something. It was just astonishing, and I was just amazed. It was one weekend of just terrifying messages out there, right? And I mean, there's an organization called Momivation, and they present themselves as these mommy bloggers, but really they're sort of like a activist organization, and they do have mommy bloggers blog for them, but they're really sort of these radical environmental activists and like anti-chemical and anti-conventional food and anti just agriculture, and they have this like top 10 processed foods you should never, ever, ever, and they actually say like never, ever let your child. I mean, the absurdity of this, the unreasonableness of that advice. Okay, and that's one of the articles where I was told like goldfish crackers are going to kill my kid. I mean, what in the world? On what planet do you live on that you think it's acceptable to sort of say this? Like, my child is not eating goldfish crackers every hour of every day. It's a snack. It's something I give him. After school, it's very convenient, and there are some nutritious qualities about them. So, this is what I'm talking about. It's so frustrating. There are women who will see that and they're like, okay, I'm never ever ever going to, allow my child to have a goldfish cracker. Which again, then she has to rush around looking for, some sort of organic, which probably has the exact same nutrition.
It has the same ingredients.
Yeah,
just
same ingredients. But it's more expensive, and it has it has some sort of label that looks like it was hand drawn by an Amish person. So it's like you go to this extra work, you go to this extra expense, and ultimately you're not providing your child anything better. So this is the kind of thing that I just think it makes mothering harder and joyless and stressful, and you got to think about it. And I think
which it is already. I don't think about this stuff. I don't worry about this. I go down the chip aisle. I look for what's on sale. I go to the meat aisle. I look for what's on sale. I go to the produce aisle. I look for what's on sale, right? This is my shopping strategy, okay? Now imagine if I had to worry about all this stuff and I was looking at labels and checking things out. I mean, I just don't have time. I have so many other things on my plate. Well, and here's another thing, Julie, that moms, I think we know this intuitively, but we're being told not to. Kids should not and cannot eat like adults. Okay?
Right.
We force ourselves to eat things that we don't want to, like broccoli or kale or whatever the most hideous, thing we have to, because we know it's healthier, it fills us up, it has micronutrients, blah, 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 blah. So, but if we had our druthers, right, we would still eat a cheeseburger and fries every day. I know I would, but I make myself eat healthier food. Kids have differences. Now, obviously, we have an obesity problem with children being obese and overweight. There's a lot of factors that go into that. A lot of it is genetics and cultural. But by the same token, kids need sugar. Kids need fat. They need more of, what we as adults tend to cut out. And now even the science is coming out that we shouldn't have been cutting a lot of this stuff out to begin with. But this idea that your children are going to want to eat the way that you're making yourself eat for health reasons or weight reasons or whatever it is really folly. I mean, like I said, I've cooked so much for my kids when they were younger, made their baby food. Well, now they're teenagers and preteens. They go up to their friends. They're going out to fast food places and Buffalo Wild Wings and, they're going to all these because that's how kids want to eat. That's how teenagers eat. They're not like, Mom, I'd rather come home. Can you make me a kale Caesar salad with some grilled chicken? No, they're like, we're going to, Buffalo Wild Wings or we're going to go to Fridays or whatever. And
they're not dying.
They want there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would love to have the metabolism I had when I was 15 years old, but I don't. And sadly, I'm like you. I force myself to eat healthier, but really, I would like to eat a big bowl of pasta every single night instead of the cauliflower rice that I'll probably make tonight and cry. Covered with tears for extra salt. Look, the thing is I also find parenting advice on nutrition to be equally irritating. Like the latest, the modern parenting advice on getting kids to eat vegetables. Okay, is that you have to present? I can't even talk about this without laughing. Is to present it 20 times. Okay, so you don't force them, right? You just nicely put it on their plate, right? And eventually they'll take a nibble of it. Okay, so I wrote an op-ed on this because I often write on parenting as well, and I find this advice so irritating. Again, from an economic standpoint, okay, because I don't have the money, okay, to waste on giving my child a serving of food 20 times before they eat it. So,
Wow.
my parenting advice is, have you tried yelling at them? I mean, yell at them. Say,
yes.
Eat your corn.
Right.
If you don't, or how about this? You're not getting up from the table until you eat your corn. Or how about this? You don't get to have any fun until you eat your green beans or corn. I mean,
you're not getting anything else to eat until that at least.
Yeah, I mean, I find it so coddling of kids that we are supposed to somehow present something that, I mean, I'm not presenting liver and onions. Okay, it's a carrot, right? It's a piece of corn or whatever.
Right.
So this is not torture. We treat our children like snowflakes, like they're so delicate.
Precious.
Look, my kids, it's not always pleasant, but my kids eat what's on their plate. I mean, they don't scrape it clean, but when I put something in front of them, they're going to eat it, and there's going to be consequences if they don't. And so I just find, again, the parenting advice 20 times, and you never insist they eat it, and you never raise your voice. I mean,
No.
These are just unreasonable requests. Now, I would love to be the patient mother who doesn't get frustrated, but I do, and I think most reasonable people do. So again, the food. It's not always just alarmism. I find it's unreasonable. Again, this is why we are launching this program, Reasonable Moms and Dads. We also like men, so I don't mean to exclude anybody. But again, I think people are getting a little tired of this coddling of kids, whether it's food or, letting them ride their bike, whatever it is.
I think that there needs to be, I think a big change for me, quite honestly, was when I saw some of the older moms who I knew their kids were going off to college and they are still texting them 10 times a day and making sure that they're up for their class. Or they're going, they're visiting this college 10 times before the kid is even there. And I thought, okay, you have lost who you are because you spent 18 years being subservient to this human being who's not going to go off and have a blast. And you're still, sending food to them every single week and making sure,
it's so sad.
Let it go. Go find something for yourself. You are a human being with value and purpose too. And you can't, then you hit your 50s and you've wrapped up your entire life and every moment and every decision based on, kids. I know I've seen parents who have given up every weekend of their life for 10 years to take their kids around to sports events. But guess what? By the time they're, junior in high school, they're not even involved anymore.
Well, the thing is that
fortune and given up all their free time to try to push or please these kids, and you end up empty-handed.
There is a trend in this country to sort of fetishize motherhood, right? That it's become this. It's just all encompassing. You just have to give your whole life up to be a mother. You need to buy the most expensive things. You need to have the best, most educational toys. They need to be, again, crafted, in someone's garage or barn or something you have to buy the most expensive food. I mean, every aspect, you need to hover over them, right? There's a great book called How to Raise an Adult by Julie Lycott-Hames. I highly recommend it. I wrote a review of the book several months ago. She was a dean for 20 years at an Ivy League school. I can't remember which one. It might have been Stanford. And she noticed over that 20-year period how less capable kids were of taking care of themselves. She would notice that there was increased shyness among the kids. They couldn't make eye contact. They couldn't have a conversation. The parents would do all of the talking during the meetings. Then once the kids went off to school, there were some significant issues with anxiety and depression, suicide, really, really serious issues because these kids simply had never learned any kind of coping skills, any kind of independent skills. I mean, kids really need so Julie Lycott-Hames, her book is really interesting. And then when you consider, now she's focusing on sort of
name, Julie.
It must be. It must be.
All this wisdom.
All this wisdom. So she writes sort of the effect of helicopter parenting or hover or sort of that over-parenting on older children, on college-age kids, and how they really do fail when sort of launched. Couple that with Lenore Skenazy, who is actually going to be on our Reasonable Moms panel on October 19th. Again, go to IWF.org if you're interested in going. She is actually going to be on our panel. And Lenore really focuses on, I think, sort of kids at an earlier age, how we are so nervous, we are so scared to let them out on their own, to have any unsupervised play, that we hover over them. So I think together, these two writers on this subject, both Julie Lythcott-Haims and Lenore Skenazy, really paint a picture of sort of what the consequences are of this overparenting. You and I sort of focus on the medical issues, the scientific issues, the food issues, and how that's manifest in those areas. But I think people really need to start really to read the work of Julie Kelly, Julie Lythcott-Haims, Lenore Skenazy, certainly myself,
Julie Gunlock.
and Julie Gunlock, and see how this is really creating not only a society where our children are just not able to take care of themselves and do the basic things, but also misery in parenting, true misery. You mentioned these women who like give up a decade of their life and their kids aren't really even interested in those sports. I mean, you really need to put these things in perspective and not sort of forget yourself while you're parenting your children. It doesn't do your kids any good either.
No. And what you just said is so important for moms, especially the young ones who are there in your home, especially if you're with little ones. There comes a time where, you want to kind of regroup and regain who you used to be. And that's okay.
Right.
You have a lot of years left after these kids are in school, right? I mean, my daughter's a year and a half away from going to college. I'll be turning 50 and it's like, wow, you have a whole other life ahead of you. You've learned so much being a mother, but you also want to be, an individual person who contributes to society, or you refine a passion like, I have with this or what you're doing. And so, in a way it does devalue and make women so subservient in a way that, you could argue that was the case 50 years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like a reversal. Like we expect women, you hear, and we're going to wrap this up, but you hear this message, and I know you have written about this too. Like, the message is, I need to buy the most expensive ingredients, organic, locally grown, non-GMO, to feed my children, preferably that I've grown myself in my backyard because I have so much time to do that, right? And then It's really astonishing when you really dig down into these mommy bloggers. Okay, so like, one I read recently, she's like, goodness, do you know what's in your flour? And like, she's talking about bread flour, like, all-purpose flour, right? And then she has this ominous headline, right? And then she gives, I'm not kidding you, a database where you can put in your zip code and figure out where you can grind your own flour. I'm not kidding. Ostensibly from the wheat that you've grown in your backyard, okay? Then another mommy blogger, she's like, goodness, don't make your own soda, right? Or she's like, no, don't buy soda, make it, right? So she gives this recipe for homemade ginger ale, right? Which has like 700 cups of sugar. So it's not in any way more nutritious, right? Like a reasonable mom would say, I'm going to add ginger ale to my grocery list. No. If you're a good mom, right, you will make your own ginger ale. I mean, these are the kinds of things that make, that again, you mentioned this is what it was like 50 years ago. I mean, my husband's grandmother didn't have her own garden because she liked to garden. It was grinding poverty, okay? She needed to grow some things. Right. And she spent a lot of time doing it. She didn't have time to go out with her friends and go see a movie and go to happy hour or have a book club. No, she was tending her garden. So, I think again, this really is like a throwback. It puts women sort of, it doesn't allow them any free time to do anything that they enjoy.
No, you are a slave again to your family, and there's no upside to it except just the continuation of putting your needs and your intellectual development, your social development, whatever it is, way down the list to make flour. That's ridiculous. But, human progress and modernity, these are great things, women. We are so lucky to be living in this time.
Modern grocery stores. Modern grocery stores used to be considered progress, okay? Let's not forget. Yes. I go to the store this morning. I actually went to the store. I had to get a mop, and I had to get light bulbs. And guess what? I went to one store, okay? I didn't have to go to the hardware store and then the light bulb store and then the I went to one store. It was great, and that I prefer. So, hey, listen, Julie, I honestly, I always enjoy. I feel like I just always feel so great when I talk to you. You're so fun, and you're such a breath of fresh air. As I said, you are one of the most reasonable moms that I know.
Well, my daughters might disagree, but I'm gonna put that on a loop so they can hear it every morning.
I'm going to send you an embroidered pillow with Reasonable Mom on it.
Please do.
Yes. I don't know.
Well,
we don't seem like I don't know that we seem like the embroidered pillow types, but hey, maybe.
Oh God, no. That's right. I'll keep it out of sight so no one thinks I've lost my mind. But thank you so much, Julie. You do such great work. I don't know how. Honestly, you do all that you do with 3 younger boys, but your work is so great, and I so appreciate you having me on it. And I wish I could be at the panel. DC is my favorite city, but I'm not going to be able to make it out this time, but hopefully next time.
Well, listen, for anybody listening, Julie, we just adore you. We will have you on a panel soon, and we will continue to promote your work. Julie Kelly is a writer and can be found all over. Julie, do you have something you want to promote, or a website or something that you're working on right now?
I'm working on my website, but I'm mostly active on Twitter. So Julie_Kelly, KELLY 2. And you can see my recent articles or whoever I'm picking a fight with that day, which is
she is hilarious. She is
organic
so
or non-GMO.
Yeah. She's really tough on Twitter. You always want Julie on your side. I just want to thank everyone for listening. Our event is October. Again, it's Reasonable Moms Unite. We'll have Jenny Splitter, who's a freelance writer.
Oh, she's awesome.
She's awesome. Bethany Mandel, another freelance writer and a senior writer at The Federalist, and the one and only Lenore Skenazy, who is the founder of the Free Range Kids movement. I am a huge fan of hers. So we will all be in D.C. talking about how to bring reasonableness back to parenting, how to bring some measure of calm and joy back to parenting. So I hope everyone can join us there. You can go to IWF.org. Again, go to the events page to RSVP and to get more details. Julie Kelly, thank you again for joining us. This has been another edition of the Working for Women podcast. Check us out at IWF.org.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please give it a thumbs up, share it on social media, or stop by IWF.org for similar content.